October 21st at 6 p.m. I'm Martha Cornwell. I am the vice chair of the select board, filling in for Naomi today. The first order of the agenda is to ask if there's any conflict of interest with anything on the water board agenda.
No.
No. Perfect. Are there any announcements? I suspect not, because there's nobody of the public here. Thank you, Cat TV, for recording. Perfect. Any public comments? Expect probably none of those either, seeing that the public has not arrived. All right, so we are on to number 5, part of the meat of this water board session, to discuss the water allocation request. And I'm going to have Paula kind of start the discussion, and then we have Josh here and we have Melanie here, and hopefully we can kind of come to a whole understanding, because we got a lot of stuff in our packet, and some of it is not quite as clear as I hope it would be. So please take it away.
Josh, you should probably start with what information we had at the sanitary survey. Like what happened, like what did they say? Because then I can pick it up with the letters.
Okay, so this last current one, we're currently permitted for 44,000 gallons per day. And we're roughly using, on average, I would say right around 60,000. So that's the issue, and that was the issue last sanitary survey with them.
And can you go back to explain, just so that we're kind of knowing all this, what is the sanitation survey? Is it something that happens yearly?
Every 3 years,
Okay.
every water system. They'll come around basically. If you have wells, if you have a bigger system, like a facility like North Bennington's treatment plant, they'll overview everything, all your paperwork, make sure everything's in line, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, because it's obviously public health that you're dealing with. So that's every 3 years, and it's usually nothing too crazy as long as you have all your ducks in a row.
Okay, and this is the state of Vermont that
State of Vermont, yep.
That makes this happen. And what part, like what area of the government is the purview of sanitation?
So that would be fall under the Vermont drinking water division.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay. So the sanitation survey basically said we're over where we typically
Yep.
are
In the last
allocated.
3 years ago, when I just took over for Jim, that was the same complaint. And I believe couple 3 years before that, it was still the same issue. We were using more than we were permitting to use. So it's been an ongoing issue for years.
Okay.
At this point.
Okay.
And
All
then
right,
at
pick
that
it up.
point, they said for our water board, say that 10 times fast, to contact theirs and ask for a higher allocation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's what we did, and part of the letter, based on current reported system demand for monthly reports, the current daily demand is 67,133 GPD. So, but we asked for 75,000. So the letter was sent, they signed for it, all is well, and we got a nice one back. We received your letter requesting an increase in your water allocation. In order to consider this large increase, we need more information. And they asked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 questions, which you answered. But then the discrepancy question came up, and we have to figure out why there's such a big discrepancy against our meters, like the meters and the master meter.
Sure. And obviously the state's going off of the master meter, because we are both reading them, Shaftsbury and North Bennington. So that's what gets used.
So can you go back to explaining kind of what a meter is that you would see at your house versus what a master meter is? Where is it?
Sure. So this, I brought an example. Okay. So this would be your typical homeowner meter. It's pretty basic. It's the freeze plate. It's got a little screen, which kind of stops larger stuff, but not really the small things. And this is really, it's reading water. And the issue is this little disc rotates as water flows through it. And the problem is it gets sediment in the lines, eventually gets in this meter. So when this sits in a house for 20 years, this works slower and obviously starts wearing down. So say this gets put in and it's 96% efficient. Well, it sits in the house for 20 years, depending on sediment and whatnot, and it might drop down to who knows what. So that's probably where most of our missing water is going. And obviously no system's 100% tight.
So it reads a number,
Yep, so
depending on
this
the
is
things. And then
every revolution, it's
Yeah.
so much water. And then it picks up
on the
on
numbers.
this.
Yep.
And then we have outside readers. So it's just two wires in here that goes outside and that reads per thousand.
And that's
This-
what we bill people for,
Yes.
this number that's
Yes.
coming out
And
of
we-
this machine
Yes,
for
and we
everybody.
bill per thousand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Some places will do a set price, and then if they use more water, like it's X amount per 10,000 gallons or something. then
Right,
Over
okay.
that, you get billed.
Okay,
But we bill per thousand.
and those are the numbers that are going out from the numbers that you sent for kind of what was billed each year.
Right.
Okay,
yes.
got it.
It's what was captured by the
Right.
meters, not apparently what went.
By
into the meters,
by
maybe.
these meters, maybe.
Sure.
But that's what we're billing, and
Yes.
each one of
Yeah.
those things
Yep.
was each year's billing. Okay. And then what is a master meter and where is that located?
So your master meter's a lot bigger. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's a 4 inch and they just replaced it to an ultrasonic. So instead of having internal components, it's basically a tunnel with mirrors and it has a laser that shoots down.
Oh.
And it is very accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
As this would wear down over time, there's mirrors and a laser and it doesn't wear down. It just has a lifespan with the battery in it, usually 15 to 20 years.
Okay. And
Although the other meter the older meter that was in there, it was a similar device to this, but just on a bigger scale, was still reading higher. It obviously just didn't help when they put the latest and greatest in there as well.
So is the new meter reading much higher?
No, not really crazy amount, pretty much the same, maybe a little bit more, but nothing astronomical. I figured it was gonna jump up a lot, but
But it
it didn't.
More accurate.
Yeah.
probably.
Just more accurate.
And the master meter is all of the information
And I
that's
say
coming.
master meter,
Yeah.
but it's just a bigger meter.
Right. But this master is the one that the state is using to kind of
Correct.
with their sanitary things. And that master meter gets information from all of the people that are on it or
Just gets whatever comes into Shaftsbury for a flow. So
Okay.
it's up the road here, just before you go out of town on 7. There's a yellow house and there's a garage and then the trailer park right next to
Okay.
the yellow house. It's right in front of that. There's a pit
Okay.
in there with valves and a big meter.
Okay. and
So
that's where
anything
one
that-
is.
Comes into Shaftsbury, runs through that meter.
So it runs into that meter before it goes out into
Correct.
everybody else's
Correct.
houses that are all members. Okay.
I
That's
just
very
call it the master meter because it's
Right.
coming from
Makes
there.
much sense. Thank you. I,
Oh.
it sounds like I'm a kindergartner, but I'm
No.
trying to understand kind of, and I'm sure everybody else is trying to understand too. Okay, so now that we have kind of a sense of
Of where we are in the
where,
timeline.
yes, things on it.
Yes.
Yes.
So in your opinion, you don't think there's any water missing?
Yes, there's obviously water missing. And I expressed to Dave when he was here that when we started the first phase that they have smaller meters that are ultrasonic, the mirrors. They're obviously a little bit more, but they read 100%. And I figured if we did it during each phase, each phase would roughly take 5+ years. So you would space it out and do 100 every year. Because really, this is what's making us money.
Right, how much do they cost?
Yeah.
Like,
So it depends on what you want to go with. A lot of the ultrasonics will come with software and they all have kind of their own little niche. Some of them I could sit right here and they would send data every month, every week, whatever I wanted to, right at the computer. Some are drive-bys. So it really depends what you want to go with. But the ones I was looking at one point, I believe they're roughly 100 something per meter.
That's not that
That's not
bad.
that bad.
No, it's more or less they kind of get you on the software side of things.
That makes
Like anything.
Like a monthly fee.
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
The
so
app or
much.
something.
It's an app and they usually run off a tablet. But they'll detect low flow, so if you potentially have an issue, you kind of give a heads up. If
Yeah.
if somebody's averaging, say, 10,000 every month and all of a sudden they go to 20, 30,000, well, it detects that and
Diagnostic.
it sends an alert.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It will also detect if somebody's tampering with it. So these, a lot of people, or people could put magnets on them to make them read slower.
Do we
So-
think anybody's done that in Shaftsbury?
There's no way of really knowing.
Okay.
We have a
Cause
lot
they
of,
know when you're gonna go out to.
yeah, and I mean,
check
somebody
it.
could leave it on for a couple months and take it off, or, so it reads something, but maybe not. It could, so somebody could be using 20, 30,000 gallons, but they're really only reading 5 or something. So there could be definitely some of that. But there's really no way of knowing, because obviously somebody could just take the magnet off if I went to go look at it. And so the newer style ultrasonics, they will let you know if they're being tampered with,
Got it.
which is a plus as well.
Okay.
And that should be illegal.
So.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
So as far as kind of in your professional opinion as our water
Sure.
person, the numbers that we are seeing and this discrepancy, how could you, or how would you account for kind of the difference between the 44,000 gallons per day and the 60,000 gallon per day?
So I would say there's obviously probably some small leaks out there throughout the
Okay.
system. Obviously, I work with North Bennington closely, so if Zach sees a higher flow overnight where it's kind of dead quiet, if all of a sudden we see a spike, we know that we have a leak or they have a leak. And then we'll drive around, look for it and fix it. So when it's staying steady, it's steady unless something really shows. I just can't go dig up all the water lines.
Right, that would be
And my
crazy.
professional opinion is once we get the first phase done, it should be a lot better. Because when we had an issue going down Church Street a few years back, there was a galvanized line in there, and those are sort of known to leak with chlorine. And I think there's some service lines down there that are also galvanized.
Okay.
So my assumption is once we do the first phase, things will tighten up a little bit, obviously with new water lines, and whatnot. So I would think if we were to do that on top of new meters, we would see that gap come way down. Because it's tough right now, we're buying more water than we're billing for, basically.
That was my next question as to kind of how do we explain that discrepancy? Because it seemed like from what Melanie had showed us
Correct.
with the numbers versus
Correct.
what the sanitation folks are saying are two
So
large difference.
so obviously the sanitation folks are going off the master meter coming in and what the average that they sent us for the 67,000, that was the highest usage of a month that was the average day.
Okay,
So we're roughly right around like the 60 mark, which is
Okay.
still more than we should be using, but they wanted to obviously give us some room so we didn't have to keep doing this every year and keep going over.
well, that's a lot of information. Do folks have thoughts, questions that we want to ask of?
And a couple, probably 4 or 5 years now, Vermont Rural Water, we're a member with them. And they have a guy that comes around and does locating. So Jim went around some suspect areas that he thought there may be issues, and with their technology looking for leaks, and I think he had some areas and they dug it up and there was nothing there.
There were no leaks in the places that were suspect. Okay,
And I'm not sure if they 100% dug them all up, but they at least dug up 1 or 2, I believe. And that's kind of the issue with that. I mean, if it doesn't come up to the surface or it's not super obvious, obviously it's a big leak, then you usually see it. But if it's a bunch of micro leaks,
Mhm.
you
yeah.
you're not gonna find them
Right.
till they get bigger.
So is it fair to say that some people who live in the village are way underpaying for their water and they're gonna get a sticker shock if they get a new meter?
Yes, for sure, for sure.
And do you think that problem is evenly distributed, or do you think some people are gonna get a quadruple water bill and other people are gonna stay the same?
I would say it's probably case by case basis. I mean, I've had to replace a couple of these and some look pretty good and some have more sediment than others.
Mhm.
Why that is, I don't know, but, I would say it's probably a case by case basis, but definitely, you would see an increase for sure.
I'm sorry, one more question.
Yep.
Do you have any way of comparing on sort of an average house basis, Shaftesbury versus North Bennington usage? So, I mean, if we're only, in some cases, only capturing a third or a quarter or half of the usage,
Sure.
do we have a sense of whether there are people in Shaftesbury who look like they're using a lot less than average water?
So it's really case by case.
I mean, I know obviously it depends if you've got a pool.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we have a
Garden.
lot of older folks and, you know, sometimes they only use a few thousand gallons of water. And then you have like a little family and they
Yeah.
might use 30, 40,000. And obviously we've had some issues with, abandoned houses that this meter has froze. This is a freeze plate on the bottom of the meter, so it doesn't destroy the whole meter. So it's like a sacrificial, so it'll bust. Well, if that happens and water's coming out of it, meter's not picking it up. And we've had a couple of those, so that obviously doesn't help the cause either. And we've had to drive around and look for them, and it's not always easy to find those if they're just leaking in the basement. And nobody's there for months on end. So that would also help with a newer style meter telling me right away that there's an issue.
Right,
Because obviously it's gonna see a large increase in flow nonstop.
Okay.
And Jim told me that there was a big discrepancy in the water when I first signed on, so it's been a known
This isn't a thing.
issue now.
For many, many.
I was hoping initially that this first phase would have been done and that would have bridged the gap a little bit.
Right.
But obviously with everything
There's
going
the-
on, it's gotten delayed. And Dave didn't really seem to want to pick up the new meter bill.
Well, I can imagine at $100, and if you're doing it in 100 people phases, and I think you had said there's 307-ish
300, yeah.
people
Yep.
that are using municipal
Yep.
or this water at this moment that
And they have
could
a.
get pricey fast.
Yes, and they
Um,
have like a 20-year lifespan. They have a battery that you can't replace inside the meter.
Oh,
So
so they have
that's-
planned obsolescence.
Yes,
Right.
so,
Right. And even though we've known that there has been this water discrepancy for a long period of time, one of the things that you had brought up, when the sanitation, inspection happened this year was the idea that if it continued, that there would be fees. Is that a new thing or?
that's new
this
since I've
year?
been here and
Okay.
known about it. And I know when Jim was here, it was a known issue, but there was some sort of backdoor agreement
Okay,
before that it was okay, we could use whatever. And it's a little bit of a situation kind of now that Ted,
right.
the chief operator from North Bennington, who was a part of that agreement, is now working with the state and now kind of dropping the hammer. So it's an interesting
Yes,
cycle of
an
events.
Interesting moment.
But obviously they probably have questions because I'm sure the state makes them have so much in reserve. So say they're using 70% of their capacity right now, they have 30% reserve.
Mhm.
So I don't know what number they're at, obviously.
And have you been able to get a sense, from now Ted, who is at the state doing these kind of sanitation survey work? what kind of time frame we have to remediate things before fines start? Or is this gonna be like a yearly fine, or is this like an everyday it compounds or every
I'm-
month? Or-
I'm getting the feeling that there's no black and white,
Okay,
that it needs to be, the X needs to be done by a certain day.
okay,
It seems like we just want you to continue to make progress in settling a higher allocation with North Bennington. That's the
Okay.
gist I've gotten out of it.
okay,
Um, because I have asked about fines and stuff, and it's kind of been like, oh, as long as you just keep making attempts and this and that, so I get the
Okay.
gist. There's no really yes or no answer.
Okay. There's no stick that's coming at us
Yes.
anytime soon, hopefully.
Correct.
Okay. So from kind of what was happening there, let's pick up the timeline from there.
Next, tomorrow, actually, to send your answers back to North Bennington. So
Sure.
you answer the questions posed in their letter.
And we had sent a message, I think, to the
Yes.
board to
Yep.
be on one of
On their
their,
agenda for their November 6th Water Commissioners meeting. So we can
Okay.
discuss the matter of water allocation and others.
yes.
I have gotten no reply from that yet, but it's a Yahoo.
And do we
address,
know
so
what
not
day
check.
that is? That
November 6th?
November 6th is
Yeah,
the
I don't know.
water
It's a
board.
Wednesday.
week, I don't
It's a
recall.
Wednesday, thank you.
Yeah.
The election day. is Tuesday.
Oh, right,
That's
the
right.
day after election. Well, we should know that. So in one of the things that I think that we as a board need to discuss is, we've asked to be put on, the water board's agenda for November 6th, which is a Wednesday, and I believe it happens in the evening time. Is we've sent this letter, we're having some back and forth about the information, but I think that, uh, arriving and showing up to talk to the water board, would be something that we should discuss, and who might, potentially go to that. And so I had some thoughts about who might be reasonable to go, kind of based on kind of how long folks have been on the board and who's kind of been in it. So obviously, I think Paula should attend, partly because she's been doing a lot of the back and forth communication with the boards. But then I was also thinking that potentially Mike, you and potentially myself to kind of go, because
This is the North Bennington Water Board meeting?
to the North Bennington Water Board meeting, partly because you had been kind of involved in some of the kind of discussions that had happened, but also kind of have quite a bit of the institutional memory on the board at this point of kind of,
It makes sense of any of it.
yeah, the water allocation piece at least, and you know, just to kind of talk about this water allocation piece, because I think this is the situation that we need to kind of come up with some kind of plan or things like that. As opposed to some of the other things that might
Right.
have been.
I guess my
There.
understanding is what Josh just said is that North Bennington doesn't really have the reserves to give us the full allocation. That's the
Yeah.
real underlying problem. And
I don't know that. I don't know what percentage they're at or what they have in reserve. That was just, I know
Yeah.
the state, they want you to have, just like us,
Right,
they want you to say, we're using so much water and we have this much in reserve,
right.
basically.
And so I mean, that may be something that we
Yeah.
want to discuss, seeing that we're going to be discussing water allocations, because that seems like it would be a critical piece of
Yeah.
kind of the
I
puzzle
guess I
as
don't
we
even
talk
remember like
about
why.
that.
I don't remember how I know
Yeah.
that or who told me that.
And also it sort of works in their favor, the more water we use, because we pay for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Do they have
Mhm.
modernized meters in North Bennington?
I do not know it. No, because I know Zach was on their board about trying to get updated meters as well.
So it's possible they have the same problem we have?
Yes, Zach is aware of that as well. And I talked to Zach a little bit about it, and he said, their nighttime flow is really not that crazy for Shaftsbury and all of their users. So I'm wondering if maybe we don't have that many leaks.
Mhm.
It's more or less the meters,
Mhm.
but there's no way of knowing. It's just a observation.
Yeah.
Because he can see immediately when there's an issue. Obviously, if it's a big line, there's some small service lines that might not bounce up that much. But the user would have issues and call me, so there's probably a lot of little leaks that
Mhm.
are just waiting to turn into big leaks.
Right.
But I'm assuming a large percentage of it is the meters.
So, how do we feel about the trifecta of Paula, myself, and Mike
Sure.
heading to the,
Let me.
take a look and see your schedule? Yeah,
I
certainly.
I'm pretty sure I'll be around. I guess,
Okay.
what
And it
was
was
it?
November sixth,
November 6th.
and we can find out the time. I don't
Yeah.
recall what
And I will
exactly.
actually
I'm
look
gonna
to
put
see if
that
they
in.
have the agenda posted.
And yeah, we have to make sure that we have been confirmed.
We asked them for the 75 or the 67.
We asked them for 75.
Okay.
And I forget why.
Since these are things that are planned obsolescence, why do we have to do 100 at a time? Why don't we do 25 a year for the next?
You
several
could, you
years?
could do that too. I mean, you could do you could do 5 meters a year. I was just thinking roughly in my brain, each phase in
Three
thirds,
phases.
and you're roughly gonna do 300.
Replacing the water.
And that gives you some
Right.
leeway. So if you got 20 years and then you space them out like 5 to 10 years, each spacing, that gives you time to budget. and
Right. I mean, if we
replace
get a
the
grant,
meters.
we could do it all at once, that'd be great.
Sure.
But if
That's
we
what
don't
we
have a
look for
grant.
grant.
And it's obviously more money than just the 100. It's,
Right.
probably some houses will need ball valves. You have to pay a plumber, so it obviously is gonna be an increased amount.
Oh, it's not something you can just walk in and say, oh, here's we need to put in and walk out.
It's possible if we can, some brands, if they'll work with our corner horns, but some of these houses have really old valves that won't turn, so it revolves shutting off the outside water, and that's more or less a plumber. If a meter needs to get fixed or replaced, I can do that. Anything else, I don't touch that for liability purposes, because I'm not a plumber.
Right, okay. And you'd get wet if it didn't turn right.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
okay. Is there anything else kind of regarding this discrepancy or water allocation request that anybody wants to bring up? Any other burning questions? No, okay. Then we'll slide on to any other business. Any other business you need to bring up with us, seeing that we're all here?
So we did get the lead and copper results back and they were all good. So I will have to send a letter to each homeowner that I took a sample from, and then make a copy of all that, plus some more paperwork for the state and send that off.
Right. All right.
Other than that, no.
Okay. Good. So action items, it sounds like, Paula, you're going to look at, or reach out again to the board and see if we are on the agenda and
send
then,
Josh's answers.
and let us know what time, we,
Where.
yeah, because I'm not quite sure where they meet.
Figure it out.
And go from there.
Is that something you would want me to go to or no?
It's a good question.
When is it?
We'll have to, it's
Wednesday, November 6th.
November 6th.
Probably
Yeah.
it's 6-ish, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's beneficial for me to be there or
I
not.
think it would be, because you might have.
And Joe's obviously on their board as well, I
Right.
believe,
Remember.
the former operator.
Yep, so, it'll be good. All right. Then if there's no other items, I will take a motion to adjourn this water board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mike, second by Brad. All those in favor? Aye. Excellent. So this meeting is closed. And then we're gonna just roll right into our,
No problem.
thank you so much for things.
Go sit in the corner and do more paperwork.
Excellent. All right. Oh, and we have good timing. It's 6:30. Okay. All right, so it's 6:30 and I'm gonna call this meeting of the select board on Monday, October 21st, 2024 at 6:30. My name is Martha Cornwell. I am the vice chair of the Shaftsbury Select Board. And so on this, Is there any conflict of interest on the agenda?
Nope.
All right, we're gonna move on to minutes.
Well, I have the
Please.
minutes from last time and the time before, but I'm not sure if everyone is present.
Okay, so I'll take
We're
a
at the
look and
meeting,
see if
but
we
there
have
they are.
quorum for. All right, so we have the meeting minutes from October 7th, last meeting, and we were all here, so we can definitely take a look at that one. Did anybody have any? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
First
motion to
motion
approve.
first. Motion to approve by Mike,
Second.
second by Brad. Were there any changes to these minutes? There was a lot going on in that. That was a long one. All right, all those in favor? Aye. 300, the motion passes.
There you go. Slide.
10, 21,
But-
24. All right. And the special select board meeting, from October 16th, we will not be able to do because we need Tony here because it was just Tony, myself and you, so we don't have a quorum to. Or can we vote
You were there.
abstention?
Brad.
Oh, that's right. So we have to actually amend
Yeah.
this then.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to,
Motion to approve.
any discussion or changes, we need to add, Brad, talk by Zoom. No other changes. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So it passes 300. Oh my gosh, I put 300, but today is 21st. All right, so those are that. All right, warrants.
This
Oh, we
is, these
just-
are the invoices. There's no payroll warrant because Nemec kind of crashed this afternoon.
Oh dear. Okay, so this is a,
Here tomorrow, hopefully they'll be up again, but to people who print it, because them, now Rich went, no, I'm not going to work.
check warrant 25,010, and it is for $35,924.36. Can I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Brad. All those items over 1,000, we have $9,121.56 to Casella Waste Systems.
The 9/1/21/56 is the transfer station pickup.
Payment, which we learned all about last week. Yes, very large payment. $1,267 to Elon City.
Those were the solar panels for the speed signs. Remember, we had to get the speed signs out and recharging the batteries all the time. It's a bit much, so we got solar panels.
Great.
We just,
$5,446.73 to Innovative Surface Solutions. I'm assuming that's calcium chloride.
yes,
$1,937.50 to Madison Repair Services LLC.
some. Repair services. Truck number 4, the comment is tandem something.
Okay, so
It's a truck part.
truck parts. $4,301.25 to MSK Engineering and Design.
That is engineering fees for the town garage stormwater. They have to test the stormwater coming
Runoff.
off the runoff of the
Oh,
landfill.
for the transfer station. Yeah,
Yeah.
as they keep an eye on those salt levels.
Mhm.
Okay. $1,038.02 to Peckham Industries.
Heckens. Paving, that had to do with the White Creek.
Okay, something with the reimbursement. $2,156.52 to Wellington Crushed Stone, which I'm
That's crushed stone.
prepping for winter.
Gravel.
$1,661.25 to Wholesale Distributors.
A residence culvert, 2 signs and repairs and maintenance.
All right. And I'm just gonna pick one because it's very interesting and I'm very curious. $425 to Marty Harrington for beaver trapping.
That one came in today. That's on the other one. Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
never
we
seen
gotta
that
chuckle
on the
at it.
things. Like, do we have a beaver is the water that bad in Cole Hall?
There, yeah, that was, where is it? Oh, yeah, the beaver trapping, and I'm sure Tiffany probably put it in.
I want an explanation for that too.
I
No,
just-
there was a letter left, it was, there's work to be done. Beaver trappings, Simeon Dean Road, a setup fee ×2, a trap was stolen. So that was $200, and 3 beavers caught, $75 each, $225.
Wow. Okay,
Who is that to?
Our beaver, we have a beaver.
we have a
trap.
beaver
We have a beaver
trapper.
trapper.
I love that.
Mike knows.
Smiles all
I
around.
wrote this up because the guy didn't know how to invoice correctly, so Mike's like,
What, he's our beaver trapper.
we have.
Is that?
Yes.
I feel like
It's
it's
not on the website. I would like this picture with the beaver.
magical.
Vermont, we have a beaver trapper, we need
Isn't it
we
Any,
need to advertise
Guy
this.
used to run the sports shop.
I think it is, yeah,
Yeah.
Marty Harrington. So,
It was a nice,
Yeah.
oh, isn't that,
Yeah.
our day, like, oh.
any other discussions about anything else that was on the warrant?
No.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Passes 300. Wow. I can see where Simeon Dean would be the place that you'd have beaver issues. All right. Next item on the agenda is announcements. Does anybody have any announcements to make? I do have to say that we had a wonderful, first newsletter that came out from the town of Shaftsbury. Thank you, Jen. And that folks, if they are interested in learning more about what's happening, it was a very informative letter. You can sign up on the website. It also will help, for our emergency preparedness system. You can put in your cell phone so that you can get emergency response texts if something terrible was to happen. And Jen promises she's not spamming anybody's email. So,
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we are not even set up to text people yet. We're just collecting. cell
Collecting the
numbers.
data.
We have
Yes.
not even texted anyone yet.
but definitely something to sign up for, and it is right on the website. Very easy to click the box and sign up. Any other announcements?
I do
Okay,
have
Oh.
one tiny little announcement that
Sure.
if you've got the website or newsletter, you would see that we're doing veterans headstones.
yes.
And Sunday was the last one of the season over in Village, and a few people showed up and we cleaned a couple stones and it was great. So in the springtime, if you're interested in helping out and cleaning veterans headstones, we're still in Village Cemetery, so we'd love to see you.
And I'm sure you'll make an announcement when we
Yes.
come back on
Yes.
season again for
So-
things after the
Because it's coming.
chilly weather comes. Excellent. Are there any public comments? I know that there are a few folks to the public on Zoom at the moment. Hearing none, we will slide on to the treasurer's reports. Melanie.
Hello again. Can we look at the cash flow, Jen? The big number is gonna jump out, tells you what I've been doing with myself. So I'm still madly collecting taxes. Tax due date is November 12th. We accept postmark, but you can pay online. If you do, I recommend that you choose the e-check option. It's a flat $1.50 rather than a 2.65%, which adds up very quickly. That we already discussed that interfund transfer at the last meeting. That was just some big checks that you guys approved that were drawn on reserve accounts. So that was making the general fund whole. You can see we've got lots of cash, as we always do this time of year because of tax payments. The vast majority of that, of course, is education money, and we'll send that off again in November after taxes are already all accounted for. If you want to go down to the bottom of that, Jan, you can see there's that payroll that you had. That's the one that we already did. There wasn't one today because NEMRIC was down. It is back up again. you'll be glad to hear. So that's our cash position, as I say, high because of the time of year. I also have the total tax receipts that I've processed so far is 1.4. The last week, which will be, the week starting November 1st, is going to be insane. People should expect to have to wait quite a while because people like to come in and have questions answered, and obviously that can really add up. So the waits can be quite long. So that is the general fund. Anybody have any questions about any of that?
Nope.
Okay, so let's take a quick look at reserves. We already talked about almost all of this. So you can see there's a little tiny bit of water coming in at the 260 line. The water bills are going to go out right around when taxes are due. I'm supposed to find time to create those bills. I don't know what I was thinking. But those will be due in December and will go out in November.
Do you need help mailing?
Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, it's, compared to tax bills, it's nothing. It's just that I haven't actually done it before. So it's entering all this stuff from all the meters, and I'm sure it'll be easy to do. It's just I need to find the time. Questions about any of the reserve stuff?
No.
We are past the date at which you can make a homestead declaration. I'm glad to see that my little sign at the Four Corners did light a fire under some people. Today, I processed 7 new tax bills that were based on very last minute homestead declaration. So that was
Good.
that makes me very happy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got.
Well, thank you.
So can we ask one more
Sure,
thing
please.
before you leave, the one about the property? And the tax, just to,
Talking
because
about
while you're still here.
Yes.
the 43 Buck Hill.
Oh, I was going to bring that up.
Okay.
Actually, the way we left that it right now is I talked to Marlene and said, do we really need to drag 15 people here for an abatement hearing when there is, even the VLCT did not have a category under which to call this an abatement, because there are only 6 things you're allowed to abate for. And, there's death of the homeowner, there's destruction of the property, there's illness, inability to pay, and error by the listers, and that was as close as they could get. There was no error. We knew this was
Wow.
going to happen, and Gina, understandably, is not excited about having it be on the books as an error. It's not an error. So Marlene is looking into whether we can just have the select board say, we're going to abate this. It was part of the plan all along, which it was. It's just that this is sort of an unusual situation.
Okay.
So that's where that is right now.
Okay.
My strong recommendation would be not to have an abatement hearing for this alone. If there's an abatement hearing for anything else, so we can take care of that in 15 seconds. Otherwise, I would be in favor of just abating it without going to an abatement hearing and
Of the
leaving a
Board of
huge
Civil
paper trail.
Authority and just doing it via just the select
Yeah.
board, if it is
Yeah.
technically, and so Marlene's figuring out if that's
She's
technically
going to
okay,
find out
or
whether that's
we could do.
whether that
as a
is
board.
by statute something we can do, but as I say, I think since this was understood from the very beginning, it's and there is no category for it.
Right, it doesn't really.
That I would just
fit.
be in favor of leaving a very large paper trail explaining our thought process and having it be on the minutes of a select board meeting.
Okay. So
Thank you for bringing that up. I
so it's a
meant to.
to be determined at
I
this
would
moment,
say-
because maybe we can bring it to the.
Do we have
next-
another, we
I
have
think
another
our
select board
next-
meeting before election, before,
The day before election, I think is.
I mean,
is
before
November.
November 12th. We certainly have one, right?
Yes,
yeah.
it should be
The
November
third-
4th.
Okay.
Yep.
November 9th. No,
Yep, just
4th.
November 4th is. the
Okay,
one
so
before-
why don't
the
we
12th.
get a final answer on that?
Before that
And
date.
and if Marlene finds that either way, as I say, I recommend we not expect to have an abatement hearing just for that. If there is one for other things, then we could stick it on the agenda. I have not heard that anybody else is, with one exception. I do have somebody who's trying to abate an error by his own out-of-state tax preparer, but actually it's the tax preparer is trying to abate it, which is not within the categories either. So that's certainly not going to be cause for one.
Okay. All right, then we'll
So,
hold until the
Yeah,
next meeting
I
for
would
that.
say let's
Hmm.
expect on the 4th to have somebody make a motion that we abate those taxes at a select board meeting.
Okay,
I mean, just do it right then.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Excellent. Next on the agenda is Reed Wills giving us a solar project update, and I actually think maybe Dave is here to make that conversation.
That is correct. Thank you very much for having us. Reed was not able to make tonight, so I will be sitting in with the update on the Shaftsbury solar project. Main thing that has come through since our last update meeting that we attended was that we did receive our VTrans permit for the temporary access. Felt that was a pretty large milestone to get that accomplished. So that did come in here a couple of weeks ago, actually less than 2 weeks ago, which was again very, very exciting for the whole group. We are going to continue to procure all of our infrastructure. So as equipment is getting ordered, we get more of a defined timeline on the arrival. Of course, the bigger pieces of equipment like the main power transformer, those are in the process of getting ordered, but that will be also happening here very, very soon. Another big item that we've been working on is working along with the North Bennington Water Board, and we are near completion with our agreement, and also with getting our design for the relocation of that water line complete. We are almost done with that. We've got some drawings out that we've been reviewing and bouncing back and forth, and we feel that we've got everything's going very well, and the communication's been good, and we will continue to get to that final design, and also, of course, that agreement between the solar project and the water board. Another big ticket item is, of course, the approval by the PUC. We do anticipate on receiving that approval by the end of the year. It's one of those deals where it's completely in their court at this time, and once they make their decision, we will know, of course, but we do expect to hear something here in the next, probably less than 2 months. But again, hate to assume this time of year, especially with the holidays right around the corner. Also, the substation design that continues to work along with our high voltage contractor and along with GMP. So we have been making good progress with that. We feel pretty solid about it as far as our substation and how everything is going to tie in and work together. But those drawings and all that design efforts are definitely moving forward pretty quick. Those are all the specific updates I have. I'm happy to answer or address any questions or concerns the board may have.
Sounds like things are kind of moving along fairly smoothly, so that's nice to hear, and thank you for coming to kind of provide updates. It's always nice to kind of hear where we're at. Are there any questions anybody has here sitting?
None for me, nope.
Okay.
I think I have one question being, I think in the agreement, we were gonna get charging stations at the town hall. Is there any update on when that might happen?
Not a specific when it will happen. I know it's been in discussion, within our internal team, and we'll continue once we get those all ironed out. We'll be able to provide a better timeline. The main focus right now, of course, is the project itself getting under construction at some point next year is the goal as of right now. But yeah, we'll continue to work on getting you a more definite timeline for that.
Thank you.
Okay. And Dave, what are you guys thinking about as kind of next steps for kind of keeping us in the loop? Are you planning to kind of do another kind of meet up again, maybe in the turn of the new year, once kind of potentially you hear from PUC, or are there other things that you feel like we should be being updated with in the kind of next 2-ish months at this point?
Yeah, we will come back with another update on December 2nd to give you, what has been accomplished since then, from now until then, of course. As far as a public group meeting or in-person meeting, I'm not too sure just yet. I think the PUC is the biggest piece of the puzzle, and in getting that approval from that group, of course, is going to be instrumental to everything else that's going to have to happen after that. But I know that we are, planning and actually preparing another update for you folks here on December 2nd.
Okay, great. I think that yes, does correlate with one of our meetings. So that's great. Excellent. Anything else for anybody? Okay. Thank you so much for hanging out and being with us and providing this update, and we look forward to hearing more December 2nd.
That sounds good. Thank you very much for your time, and guys have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. Take care. Next item on the agenda is the zoning administrator posting. That went out in our packet.
Went out in your packet.
Um,
It is finished. I have some input. I had a good template already and talked to our existing zoning administrator, who we are sad to be losing to retirement, but good for her.
Yes.
Very happy for her. And it's ready to go out. So with your permission, I'd like to post it tomorrow.
Sure.
Okay.
So we just need a motion to allow Paula to post the zoning administrator posting wherever she does that.
LCT classifieds
Um,
and our website.
So moved. The most.
So you're gonna make that motion. Brett's making that motion
Second.
and Mike's gonna second that. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, passes 300. Excellent. Moving on to the discussion of the stonemason quote and kind of coal hall updates, because Paula has been very busy on our behalf,
Oh, yes. the
deep
saga
into
continues.
things, learning all sorts of things.
I'll be able to be a mason by the end of this. Are you kidding me? I will have the skills. Yep, so the stonemason came and he made good sense as far as looking at the building and saying, this building's in really good shape for the age it is in. But yes, on the north and the west walls, lots of pock marks, lots of cracks, badly in need of repointing and replacement of mortar, which would be lime, because that's what you do with buildings this age. And then he wanted to kind of cover it with a waterproofer. And then Naomi spoke to her friend, Ron Wanamaker, I think his name is, and he works on historic buildings. Oh, I forget the name of the town, but works in like a museum and knows a lot about this. Shelburne, thank you. And he said that the estimate that the mason gave, which was only 6,000, yay, was wildly low. And you should not probably waterproof over lime mortar, because lime mortar is supposed to expand and contract. And it takes, a long time to cure. And he was going to do the lime and then wait several months. But also suggested I reach out to Jamie Duggan at the Vermont Division for Historic Preservation. He's a preservation mason by trade, worked on the Bennington Battle Monument a few years ago, trying to track him down. So I sent an email and tracked down his number. And I think it's very important that we talk very specifically to him. And then when I spoke to Katie Buckley this morning at the VLCT, oh yes, you gotta call Jamie. So that's where we are with that. But I made the RFPs also, kind of making a bunch of different ones in case we go whatever route we go. And I made one just for the mortaring of the joints. I didn't include the waterproofing.
Okay.
Until we know what the appropriate thing to do is.
Yes, I
Given all the
think
opinions.
getting a hold of Jamie, I think will be good. I mean, certainly this is a historic building. It's on the historic
yeah.
registry, and we want to make sure that we are preserving this building well and
Mhm.
maintaining
do the right thing.
historic integrity, I guess, of the building and our town history. And so I think it's taking a little bit more time to just talk with Jamie as
Yeah.
well, as we're kind of just, we're gathering a lot of information and we are learning
period, yeah.
so much
We are.
from all of
So,
this, so I
to
think
know
it's
more about the
good.
building.
So we're kind of getting more information about kind of the water ceiling proofing slash mortaring outside work. But what's kind of happening with the interior work with demolition stuff? Is that going forward as we
I
are?
think that should definitely go forward. I have the RFP done for that as well. I found some templates. And I ended up going with the easier one. So I have 2 of those requests for proposals. I have them all written and I'm pretty confident that we can, once Marlene's comfortable coming up here. She's got the election to get through. We have the trailer already and it will be moving 1 or 2 offices at a time over the course of the weeks and
Should we get some things done in the trailer?
yeah,
We
we
can
get
do
some
that.
things
Right,
done
because
in
you've got to
trailer.
get wired and everything.
Yep.
Okay.
And I have it set to go. So whenever you want me to post it.
In my opinion, we should post those quickly.
That's what I
Yeah.
think too.
Yeah,
How do we-
Because I just want to see the timing because that's what I wasn't sure of, like.
because even those winters coming, it could be months.
I
Right,
had-
before we can contract people
How
to
much?
do.
I've written proposals will be accepted until 4 o'clock on Friday, November 15th,
Okay,
thinking that we could get it under contract by the ARPA deadline,
by the end of
by the end
December.
of December. And they can start
Because
by
this
that
will be a
time-
sealed bid process,
By
so
that
we'll
time,
have
all
to.
the offices will be moved and we'll be like, okay, you can have the floor.
Mhm.
So I can get that posted tomorrow as well.
Right, so what do folks
Yeah.
have thoughts about those 2 RFPs for the these are for demolition of the downstairs and electrical
Electric as far as like,
together.
they're gonna rip down the sheetrock and find electric. But we also have to do other things with the
Yeah.
electric going into another thing because we have everything kind of needs to come up here. And be.
The
rerouted that way.
server and the wiring needs to be raised up here. Our
Mm.
server and the internet wires,
Because it's not just electric, it's computers,
and that's what's holding up our new phone system.
The server
We
not
have-
being
we
up
have the
here
Equipment, but the wiring for
needs to
the
be up
network
here.
hub
everything's.
all needs to be up here. And we can't install the new network hub until all the wiring is up here for the new phone system and the high speed. I mean, everything was put on hold as soon as we had to move the humans.
This is like a ball of very tangled yarn.
It's like the server and all that wiring has to be moved, but the wiring, we certainly have to have lights remain in there, so it's not like they'll be ripping out electrical, they'll probably just be like, what do we need?
But the electronic equipment,
Yes,
that, I guess that makes more sense.
yeah, the equipment needs to
Right.
come up. It'll be safer up here anyway, so it's drier.
Yes.
There's a lot
And
of-
for
a lot of moving parts.
working purposes, moving it up is better.
Mhm.
Because with everything, with the phones and the computers and the laptops, if everybody's on Wi-Fi up here, the phones are gonna be VoIP.
Mhm.
Oh,
It's gonna be too much.
It's gonna be too
Yep.
much.
We need to move everything
Closer.
up,
Yep.
hardwire half of everything. So only half of everything is Wi-Fi. Does that make sense?
That does make a lot of sense. to
And it's
me.
actually gonna be a lot easier
And it would
when
be-
the walls are downstairs.
Yes.
Yes. This is all making good
Yeah,
sense
it'll
to
work out
me.
somehow.
For things. So any other,
Oh, should we do you need
so a
to get
motion,
those
I
out?
think, yep.
So I'll just make a motion to send those RFPs out into the world.
All right, so a motion by Mike, second by Brad. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 300.
I will be writing another one for the windows, because we have to take those out and put them back in and reseal them, so that's the next one I'll be writing.
Excellent. You're gonna just be on RFP zone. Our next topic is the potential creation of a budget subcommittee for the select board. And so I'm gonna let Paula talk about the budget because that is also coming down the pike.
I'm going to start this process next week because there's no select board meeting to prepare for. And I won't exactly be reinventing the wheel because Dave left very good documents and an Excel sheet that followed probably the last 5 years and how things changed and at where things were added and subtracted. So I have a good template to follow. But based on different needs of the town, there are things we don't need anymore, probably a few line items, none of I can't think of any right now, but I'm sure there are, and just adjustments that would be made. And go through similar process. Because I know he used to sit down with Mike a couple times and get a handle,
Right.
because they're 39% of our budget is the DPW.
Yeah.
We want to kind of get that part as close to reality as we can. What?
Should I say so? I don't know if I should, okay. It should, I'm sorry, I don't know if it should be a subcommittee, I think it should just be a meeting. Just you and Mike, or you and
Oh,
somebody
no, I'll
else.
meet with Mike.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
But
shoot.
if you call it a subcommittee and have more than 3 people, isn't that needs to be a formed committee?
So, yeah, one of the things that I think that
Okay.
we were thinking about, is that kind of the budget kind of is at the direction of the board. Obviously,
Right.
we are kind of the governing body, but also, I think especially because, this is Paula's first year creating a budget of this magnitude, but also this kind of budget, although you have many budget experience,
Right.
in the past. And that also there are, lots of different kind of moving parts for some of the things that we are creating. There are some new positions that may kind of come up, other things that we likely are going to have more wants than potentially there is money to fund. And so kind of making some of the determinations and having folks on the board as a subcommittee to kind of working and talking with Paula to kind of sort out these priorities and kind of what makes sense, and if some need to be kind of phased in, if they're over many years, or they can happen right away, and kind of other things like that, I think is kind of where we're thinking the subcommittee might be helpful, especially in this kind of year. Because there are so many things that we had talked about, potentially hiring a grant writer, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few. But some other things that it might be worth us, just having a committee. And I know Naomi had kind of had started to kind of bring this up maybe, or having conversation. And she had recommended that potentially herself and myself and Paula form the committee, in just that we had already started to kind of talk about the libraries coming out of community appropriations and into our, as a line item on the budget, but then some of the other things that are kind of moving pieces that I think Naomi and Paula, just from creating all the agendas and other things that are happening, might be the case. So I was thinking that of kind of maybe that being the formalized, at least, committee, but then also thinking we have a lot of institutional knowledge, both with you, Mike, and with Tony as well. And that it might be worth having you and Tony on call as for kind of a perspective, a historic perspective, if we need to say, oh, do we remember why that was the case? Because sometimes you guys remember things, or you're like, oh, yeah, Dave said this.
Dave did all that really, so I have
Yeah.
surprisingly little institutional knowledge on budgetary concerns.
Right, and I know that there was a lot of things that were kind of happening, but just, I think if
Sure.
you, and if Tony was here, I would ask him, but I'm sure we'll reach out to him just to say if there are things that, we get stumped on,
Sure.
that we might just reach out to you for that.
Okay.
Excellent. I don't know if you have to vote to create a subcommittee or not. I don't know the Roberts rules for that.
No, sure. If it's less than,
I mean, it's not a
It's-
quorum, so
it's
it's
less
not,
than-
I
it's fine.
suspect that probably not, but will just say that we're formalizing this budgetary subcommittee. Yeah, and it will be Naomi and myself and Paula working on that, and then with Mike and Tony, on
was
call
just
for a historic survey.
Subcommittees, so I was.
Oh, there's an
I
S.
confused Myself.
Got it. Yep,
I
just
was
one.
like,
The wrong pluralization. Okay. Is there, any other, conversation about the budget subcommittee?
Nope.
Okay. So then we're on to other business, and I had a few things that I wanted to chat about or ask about. One of them, Paula, was just about the grant writer position that we talked about, and we were thinking about sending out an RFP and kind of where are we in this?
I spoke with Katie Buckley this morning for close to an hour. She had a lot of really good information.
Katie Buckley is the ARPA
Okay.
guru at the
He
VLCT.
was the town administrator in Guilford for 10 years and this then she was poached by the VLCT. So she knows her stuff. She said you probably could avoid getting a part-time grant writer and instead relying on what do they call them, freelancers, because it could be like the grants come in spurts, and if you have X amount of grants, we like handle these 3 grants, we'll pay you for each, because if you hire someone part-time at a certain amount of hours, you gotta pay them benefits, you gotta pay, it's like it's more than the pay. And she also said this to highlight how much more help the VLTC can give with grant writing. And she said they have a portal, Meet with a Project Pro. So if we want to organize these grants, I've applied for about 5 of them so far. To organize them, she's like, we have to apply for a planning grant, like a big planning grant, and they could walk us through that. And then it would be organizing all the other grants and then prioritizing what's the first thing. Let's get funding for that. What's the second thing? And some kind of organization as the plan forms. It made a lot more sense to me. Because I've already applied for 5, but I'm like, okay, I'm kind of getting the hang of it, but I see some of them, you need to do more research than others. So I think a freelancer would actually be a good idea. But to your point, you were saying that we'd be like, here are all the grants, help us with them rather than they looking for the grants.
Right. And the
We
funding
can
might
find-
be an interesting,
Right.
yes. And
She
so I
knows
think
where they
funding
are.
might be an interesting
She's a
thing, because we were thinking that if we did hire a part-time grant manager, the second year they'd have to kind of make their own
Salary.
salary. And so I don't know if with freelancing work that continues
Yeah.
to happen. So that might be something if you can shoot off an email, maybe they might be able to tell you
Yeah.
one way or another
She had me
about
thinking about a lot of
that, because,
things.
we had a little bit of the ARPA money that we were thinking we would kind of put to having somebody do that. But I also kind of like the idea of having that municipal planning grant that kind of creates the master game
Mhm.
plan for kind of all of this, and then the stepwise, and the fact that there are people, it sounds like maybe at VLCT that can
She knows
help guide those
Right, we
very
say-
large.
Literally, she did this in the town of Guilford about 10 years ago, and she's like, so many towns in Vermont are doing this exact same thing. And
Mhm.
it makes more sense to have a planning, like an umbrella,
Mhm.
and then have the little projects, because I explained the whole thing to her. I'm like, sewer feasibility study, the CCDC, we're figuring out how to get as much as we can out of Cole Hall while preserving it. We have a
Yeah,
lot
the
to do.
downtown, the potential
Yeah,
housing,
and
there's just so
exactly.
many pieces
And
of
she
this
did the
whole.
same thing, and she's, of course, she makes it sound like a walk in the park.
Right.
Just
Is
do this.
Airtable helping you organize?
Yeah, I talked to her about Airtable, and she went on the website while we were talking. She's like, oh, good. But then Tiffany said Nemrick has something similar. But I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt you can put as much.
Not like Airtable.
I know, Airtable rules.
Yeah.
Because you can put all the categories in that we
Yeah.
want. So we have it all in one spreadsheet, all the
Yeah.
grants on an Airtable spreadsheet that sort of looks like a
It's in the
Excel
cloud.
sheet.
So maybe as a to-do, we could keep kind of chatting with them and figure out kind of maybe what the next steps are and when the municipal or whatever the planning grant that they were saying comes out so that
Yeah.
we get on the queue to,
She suggested
that
that
to
you,
do.
Naomi and I go on the meet with the Project Pro, just
Oh,
talk it
yeah.
out, just to get, like,
why not?
throw everything at the wall.
We pay the membership, so we
That's
might as
right.
well
That's right.
use all
Utilize
of
the
their,
benefits of it.
their
She was reminding
things,
me of how many resources the VLCT has.
which is very extensive.
Yeah.
It's really quite impressive how many
yeah.
things that you can get for,
So, you know,
Fairly
maybe we
small
can
fee.
put a pin in that, and if we find
Yeah.
it would be better, but no, I think we can
think-
do a lot.
I think that's, we're on a path. We'll keep gathering data.
I don't mind
Um,
writing.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
what to do.
you are a writer. That is one of your wonderful skills.
Figure it out.
One of the other things that I had just been mulling around as we were, Naomi last week gave an update of kind of what the CCDC was doing. And one of the things that they were going to start talking about was kind of a game plan for fundraising, especially kind of private donations for kind of, as I like to call it, the campus, which is Cole Hall, 43 Buck Hill land, the town
Whatever it
green,
ends
so
up
many
being.
things. And one of the things that sparked for me that I think that we should empower Paula to ask Merrill Bent about is how the town as a municipal structure receives donations. And if they have to be earmarked in a specific way, if we have to create a nonprofit wing of our town. Some towns I know have done that. I know Arlington has a wing, and I want to say North Bennington also has, so that they have a way to have folks be able to donate to these projects, but also get tax deductible donations. So, but I think that that's not something necessarily that we should put on Paula, but more that Merrill would likely know how the ins and outs will go, and that we could potentially spend some of our professional services fees
Yeah.
to
be Set up. now.
because, you know, as we start kind of onboarding, I know CCDC is going to have the rendering and things like that. I think that's going to build a lot of excitement and momentum, and people are going to be asking, oh, how do I support this?
Melanie might know too, a little bit about it.
Yeah, and I wonder if also maybe reaching out to talk with Tiffany as well, because she was working with the town of Arlington, and
Yeah.
she might have some thoughts,
Okay.
because there's lots of people,
And
talented people, and the VLCT, because I'm sure they have
Someone. for-
somebody that will tell you
Thanks.
something, but to start
Yep,
that
they're there for us.
process. Yes. So that was all of my other business things. Do you have any other business, either you, Jen, or Paula, that burning holes?
Yep, the Monument Electric, we kind of talked about bringing the wiring
Yeah,
out.
okay, we kind of touched on it.
So yes, tell us.
Yes, let's bring the wiring up, the server, the server up.
Levitate.
Did we want to get into the amount that they already approved this, right?
Yeah, well, the amount. No, I mean, probably needs approving, but the other one was more money.
Yes, the other one
So we got
was
two.
a lot more money.
Two estimates.
So you got two estimates for bringing up
Bringing everything up.
Yep.
And they work with RCS because it's,
Yes, this was
it was,
the vendor that was walked through with our IT company. Walked through with us, so this is the one that they preferred to use. And hopefully they can start much sooner than the other one, because they were several weeks out. Well, we can't wait several weeks.
can't wait
Yeah,
to
not
start.
having-
Waiting several weeks.
And I'm waiting back to hear from him when we can start.
So let's see, this is a proposal from Monument Electric. The scope of which is to install and terminate Cat 6 cabling in 12 locations on the second floor of the town office building and one Cat 6.
So basically,
first floor.
the wiring that's
Yeah,
running all the computers from,
yep.
it's predates Cat 5. That's what they're saying.
Okay,
It's not even
that,
Cat 5.
so very historic
That,
wiring is
yeah.
what I'm
one-
getting from
the
what
wires
you're
that are up
saying.
here, they are Cat 5. But the wires that are downstairs are predated Cat 5.
Okay.
So they're bringing the server up, they have to be Cat 6. So the new wires that are gonna be up here are gonna be Cat 6.
Okay. And then to provide 120-volt power to 3 workstations, Jen, Marlene, Nate, as well as
Those
2
Nate.
copier
Yeah.
locations
I can bring
and 1
Nate back.
IT server. And their budget estimate to perform this work is $5,000. And they're going to try to run things above drop ceilings and be helpful and not kind of just punching holes through things. Doing the work in normal business hours.
And we went back and
And-
told them that that estimate had to include the trailer.
Okay, so this $5,000 doesn't include the trailer, or it
Well,
does?
that was, the trailer wasn't here yet.
Yet, okay,
And-
so,
So we
okay.
came back and said,
Did,
yeah.
did we vote on this? I can't recall if we
Um,
did to kind of, well, no, just to like allow for this to
Yeah.
come. I know we talked about it, but I don't know if we actually voted to
I'll run it.
Just have the
do this.
wiring brought up maybe.
Yeah, so I guess
Seriously.
we should probably get a motion to accept this. Although maybe we need to wait until we get the estimate that includes
I
the,
will dig that conduit line and run it myself if they won't include it.
I
or do
have,
we
I already
think,
have an email out to him. I'm
Okay.
gonna call him tomorrow to make
Mhm.
sure, but he says 12 and 2 of them are in the trailer next to it,
Right.
next to it. So we
okay,
just wanna
so
make
that
sure,
thinks
but
that,
yeah,
so you think it does include
first
getting
we
out to
kind of
there?
did everything.
Okay, just wanted
First we
to,
kind of did everyone in the building and then.
right, and then we
realized
moved to that from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I will take a motion to accept this proposal for Monument Electric.
So moved.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Brad. Are there any further discussions about bringing this up to speed, up to code, all the things?
Usually they work with RCS, like
Yeah.
they work.
And so they'll
They're
just
their preferred.
move everything together. Perfect. Excellent.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 300. On to that. Any other business? Okay, so then we are on to review of action items. There is a posting going out for the zoning administrator, posting for the RFPs for the demolition work. We've got Paula working to get Jamie Dugan on the line for more information. Paula and Naomi and I will start meeting to talk about the budget subcommittee. We have a hold on the tax abatement thing until we can figure out what will happen with that, whether we need a meeting or not, or we can do it at the select board, so that will come up at the next meeting. We're gonna get some more information from VLCT about the grant writing and kind of the master plan. Paula's gonna reach out to Merrill about how we get donations sent to us. And I think that's gonna call it for all of the to-dos that we've got going on. I will take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mike, second by Brad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.